Hello, my name is Evan Williams. It's February 11th, 2009, and I'll be reading an excerpt from my book, The Way of the Chestnut. I had the excellent fortune of having both parents at home, one set of grandparents next door and the other set a mile away. We all lived in the midst of apple trees, for apple growing was the family business on both sides of the family for multiple generations. When I went off to college, I shared my childhood experiences with classmates who often responded that it sounded like I grew up on Walton's Mountain from the popular television series. To my way of thinking, my life was much better. I was right at home, and Pa Glenn was certainly in his element too. He never failed to take advantage of our time together, using everyday occurrences as story points and teaching tools. "I'm looking for a young feller about as strong as an average bear," he would say to my brothers and me, appealing to our youthful egos. We all three wanted to be considered bear strong, so Pa had no problem rounding up recruits to help him with some project. When it wasn't an average bear, it was a young bull he was looking for, and again, one or all of us volunteered. Oftentimes, he needed help hooking up a plow or a mower. No mule this time. Pa would be in the seat of the tractor, inching back toward the implement, while I tried to align the two and drop the pin in the hitch. I don't know if Pa ever missed Cole or Bird, the other family mule, but some farmers in his youth did resist the noisy, expensive machines, preferring the quiet they had come to know while using mules. They didn't know or care that mules were better for the soil, not compacting it the way tractors did, the result being the killing of earthworms and driving valuable organic matter too deep into the soil to be of any use, in spite of which tractors would eventually win out. And I don't know if any old-timers looked back regretfully when mechanization came to the family farm. I sure didn't. The work was endless, even with all the newfangled equipment, and Pa Glenn's powers of motivation were often needed. He remembered how daunting some tasks can be for youngsters, who would much rather expel their energy playing cowboys, riding bikes, or tossing a football. Pa had his work cut out for him, and for a man who was never anywhere near a psychology class, he knew all the tricks. "Let's ball up like big cats and fuzz these trees," he would say in one of his many attempts to make a game out of work. Another favorite was, "Let's get with these trees like Cairo got with the syrup," which I must say left us scratching our heads a little bit, pondering the meaning of such an enigmatic admonition. He would appeal to our sense of competition, to urge us on, but never leave any of us feeling like a loser. He told endless stories to make us laugh and distract us from the severity of our task. And a river of quotes flowed from his mouth. One minute it was the Bible. The next it was the oft-quoted Luther Suttles, whom we never met. Sometimes it was simply, "as the old man says." His sources were varied and colorful. His worn-out jokes kept us mildly amused, and his reward system kept us coming back for more candy, sodas, and potato chips from Glilio Jackson's store, a short drive away in the community of Upward. Pa had a big bag of tricks, but mostly he led by example. Here was a man 5-6 times our age, with decades of hard labor behind him, and still able to work any of us boys into the dirt. So we worked to keep up. We worked so as not to be shamed by a man who should have been enjoying his easy chair. But mostly we worked because we loved him and would never do anything to let him down. He inspired us. Pa could get me to do things I would have never attempted left to my own devices. "Get on up that ladder. It ain't about to fall with you. It'll be all right." And from 17 feet up a 20-foot ladder, I could hear him say, "See, I told you it'd be all right." Those words were warring with my mind, which was telling me otherwise, while the pear tree's flimsy limbs swayed with the breeze and my weight. But I listened to Pa Glenn and fought my fears from one tree to the next in that steeply sloping orchard until the battle was won. His confidence was permanently injected into me, and I wanted to do all that he asked, even if it meant the scary assignment of helping him with the bees. Every orchard must have honeybees if there is to be a crop. We topped out at about 30 hives, or stands, of which Paul was the sole proprietor. More a passion than a hobby, he was our beekeeper by default. Nobody else wanted the job. No matter how enticing the taste of honey, the threat of angry, stinging bees kept Pa's job secure. The catch was, Pa needed a helper. It turns out that bees can't hang around the orchard once the blooms have dropped, and insecticide sprays must be regularly applied. So Pa came looking for an apprentice transporter, and Daddy, to be fair, sent all 3 of us boys off to certain death. Bees are typically moved at nightfall, when they have returned to the hive and started to settle in. Pa, clad in his bee veil, long-sleeve shirt with pants and shirt cuffs taped shut, approached each stand with a pre-cut piece of wire mesh and a stapler. The mesh would cover the slot, which the bees used as an entrance and exit. Then it was stapled in place so that they could be moved without swarming or stinging Pa's cowering cohorts. Once we trucked the bees to their destination, Pa would yank off the screen and we would run for the safety of the cab as agitated bees streamed out from the hive. It all sounds simple and foolproof, but no one told the bees the procedure. Some of them are walking around the outside of the stand when the screen is attached. Others have discovered a rotted opening in the stand that Pa hasn't yet repaired. And some are just flying around the vicinity, stubbornly refusing to go to bed. The result is the potential for someone, everyone, to get stung. Oh, them bees ain't gonna sting you. Pa sounded like he actually believed what he was saying. But when the first ones buzzed too close to my brother's ears, they ran for cover and proceeded to watch the horror that transpired from the dome-lighted cab of the truck. I was left standing with Pa and an undisclosed number of pissed-off bees, prepared to defend the kidnapping of their queen and sizable family. It was a portent of every spring bloom to come. My brothers were henceforth excused from bee duty by my parents. I would be left standing with Pa each time the bees were moved. I was standing with him when he needed spirits of ammonia applied to the 57 stings on his back. I was standing with him when he got a little older, his mind a little less clear, and he decided to move them in broad daylight. 13 of which bypassed him and flew 100 yards to tattoo my scalp, requiring a hasty trip to the clinic and an injection of epinephrine. I would be left standing with him when everyone else in the family was too scared to enter the woods with him and a loaded gun, though time had not diminished his love for hunting. I could never indulge enough the man who had given me so much. I'm still beside him every day as I step off my front porch and walk the property that he taught me to love. We're seldom apart and never for long.